Hi, I'm Lily.
And I'm Dan.
And we are The Load-In. And today we've got one of my favorite guests, Mr. Brett Evans, the MD of Atlas Wealth Management. Welcome, Matt.
Welcome,
Brett. Welcome,
yeah.
Matt.
Yeah.
Welcome, Brett. Take that one out.
They were talking in future tense.
I know, right?
He's also one of your people.
Yeah. I know he's one of my Aussie camaraderie.
Our first Aussie guest.
You're outnumbered.
She wanted to outnumber you.
I needed to outnumber.
course.
Every time I'm sitting there, I couldn't get the jokes.
Yeah, exactly.
I should have sat here like, what?
We'll just go off on a tangent.
Well, have you ever known me to be quiet? And some of them I'm like...
No.
I think the whole conversation will probably be abbreviated as well, because that's such an Australian thing.
Let's do a couple of acronyms.
Yeah,
exactly.
Some lingo.
Yep. Listen, before we start talking finance, I wanted you to tell us a little bit about yourself and sort of how you ended up in finance and how you ended up in Dubai.
For me, I'm a bit of a career expat. Became an expat at 6 months of age, moved to Tucson, Arizona. Father was in the Air Force, lived there for 5 years, moved back to Australia, moved to Hong Kong through the sort of halcyon days of colonialism in the mid-'80s, and then was there through the handover through to China. And then at that point, sort of the Asian financial crisis hit, so I thought Australia.
What year was that?
97.
Oh, wow.
So we thought best for me to go back to Australia and sort of start a career in finance there. But as my sort of finance career developed, I still had a lot of friends, family, colleagues who were living in Hong Kong. And back in the old days, financial management, you could sort of do what you want. There was no overarching compliance because as soon as you jumped on a plane and left your home country didn't really know what you're doing.
Okay.
So,
It's a bit cowboy.
Yeah, it is. And as time has gone by, those rules and regulations have increased. Their oversight from their borders has increased. And I was getting more and more questions from expats. And one day, I'll never forget, it was a month before the birth of my second daughter, I decided to sell my existing business and go purely into looking after Australian expats. And don't do that when you're about to have a
I was going to say, timing.
Probably worse timing.
My wife's got some pretty shocking stories to tell.
We'll have to get her in.
It's almost as bad as starting an event company just before COVID.
I mean,
that wasn't a good idea.
She'll tell you stories about me virtually driving her to the hospital with my suitcase in the bag as I go to the airport to fly off for work.
Oh, wow.
So,
She clearly loves you.
I was going to say, you're still married,
Yeah,
I mean,
still married.
Oh, wow.
It's that litmus test. My first car was a Holden Camaro in 1982. Lily would probably know what that is. She wasn't in it for the money, I can tell you right now. So it was true love. And she used to help me bail up the car when it was wet. So, she's a trooper.
There you go. Well, shout out to your wife.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah,
Shout out to your wife.
And just as compliance has increased and got harder to deal with.
Well, it's crazy because, I left Australia 10 years ago.
Yep.
And at that time, the advice you were given was really basic.
Yep,
there was no advice because there was no following. As you said, once you're gone, by the fact that I was going to London. So, I knew that because I was paying tax there, I didn't have to worry about paying tax
Double
at home.
taxation agreement,
I was okay.
Yep.
Like you left the UK when?
2008, 2007.
Yep.
So you would have sort of been in the same, it was still all very sort of just starting, but UK had more of a hold on you.
Yeah, UK has quite a lot of regulations.
Well, they've got the domicile test, and where, you can actually live outside the country, but you can still be domiciled in the UK.
Indeed, yeah.
And Australia has that in a similar way too, in terms of the resides and the domicile test. But the thing is, with a lot of these rules, I'll use the Australian one as an example. The Australian tax residency test was built in 1936.
Okay.
Hasn't been changed since.
So and the world's changed a lot since then.
It is. And you've got a whole generation of people where their careers did not exist back in 1936, let alone 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So when it comes to meeting certain tests, a freelance consultant who's working from a laptop
anywhere around the world,
they essentially fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
Super yacht crews, they don't have any permanent place of residence except for the boat.
But then that means
which on the sea.
But then that means they can get hardcore tax back in Australia. It's crazy.
Well, and I think this is what's happening with a lot of people I know within the events industry because there's a large proportion of Australians in particular that do like the ceremony circuit. So they'll do all the big gigs, but they're never resident in Australia. They're always resident in the country that's hosting the event.
Exactly.
And they bounce from country to country.
But if they don't have a resident, then they're considered to be Australian resident and therefore need to face tax and this, that, and the other. So it's crazy.
I think I need more coffee
we're jumping ahead.
We've got about
we're
5 steps
jumping
ahead.
But basically, what we can definitely see is Brent knows his stuff,
Yep.
and he definitely knows his stuff when it comes to expats.
My mum's going to be so proud that we're having this
proud.
conversation.
I'm going to get my brothers to listen to it because they think that I'm completely tone deaf when it comes to finance.
She works in government. She does all the finances for like local government and local council.
Yeah.
And it's like, I went the complete opposite. I was like, yeah, be a clown, a fire breather, a stilt walker. It's
And
like,
he
talking about
really,
Excel spreadsheets now.
yeah, but
of course.
he actually was a fire breather.
That's awesome. I've always wanted to do that.
you should
Like
I'll
that was
teach
in
you
his
afterwards.
bio, and it's only recently I said, by the way, is that just a joke? And he's
Yeah.
like, no, man,
That's true.
That's what I did.
But then my mum was like, you need to get a proper job. So she'll be glad I'm having this conversation
Very
now.
much
Like,
so.
I'm,
Cirque du Soleil was a proper job. So.
indeed.
Yeah.
Well, it used to be. Maybe we'll come back.
They're coming back.
They are coming back.
They had financial sense. There's a
They-
reason why they did what
of
they
course.
did. But that sort of led you to Atlas Wealth Management. Now, you know, I understand it's a leading provider of financial services for Australian expats in particular. So I wanted to touch on what the business sort of does, but from there then sort of step out and take more of a macro level, because a lot of our listeners obviously aren't all Australians, but I just wanted people to understand that you do know what you're talking about.
Look, I think the basic concepts are the same, whether you're Australian, American, English, Canadian, Irish, doesn't matter what nationality you are. To me, the biggest thing we've got right now is a worldwide movement by governments to almost, I wouldn't say control, but just have more oversight into what things are, you know, what's occurring. And you've now got a scenario where years gone by, you could jump on a plane and all you were Googling was where you go to live, where the kids are going to school, and where the great bars and restaurants are. Now there's
Not
tax
necessarily in that
implications
order,
and how
right?
that changes with your assets.
Yeah.
And this is not just for Australians, this is for
Everyone.
worldwide. And you've got something called the Common Reporting Standard now, which is a global initiative between 146 countries and territories to share data.
Okay.
So when you open up an EMBD account and they say you're English or you're Australian, they'll ask you for, in our case, a tax file number.
Yeah.
They will then record that, pass that on to the Central Bank of UAE, and they'll share that data back and
Okay.
forth between
So
the
that
ATO.
means you can't hide anything anymore.
So
Well, nobody used to be able to. That's
Yeah.
the reason why
Used
you
to.
moved to
That's-
tax havens
yeah.
or,
Well, guess what?
places with that.
one of the first
taxation.
people to sign up to the CRS was Panama, BVI, all those
Right.
places. The only country that has not signed up to the
America?
The US.
Yep.
US.
Really?
They say
And
you
yet
should
they're
do
the
it.
first ones to police everyone else.
That's
They've got their own
interesting.
version called FATCA, which is even worse because they're the only country, that and Eritrea are the only countries in the world that tax based on citizenship rather than based on domicile.
Okay.
So, look, the world's become a very small place for expats when it comes to managed money.
Very true.
So,
Big time.
you know, and we always talk about when it comes to managing money, the best place is to hide in plain sight.
Yeah.
Don't play in the fringes because that is virtually patting a target on your back for the
Yeah.
ATO.
It's sleepless nights as well,
HMRC.
isn't it?
It is.
It's sleepless nights.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's the thing. So understanding all of that, and then on top of that, this little thing called COVID happened.
What?
So, yeah. What
was
Yeah,
that?
exactly. Yeah.
No.
It's just this pandemic. I'll tell you about it later.
That's right.
But has the financial world just turned upside down?
Look,
Are we done for?
it's going to sound strange when I say this, but having the GFC in 2008 was the best thing for preparing for the pandemic.
When you see GFOC,
Global
Global
Financial
Financial Crisis.
Crisis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the total collapse of the financial
Meltdown.
system. Yeah.
Because that's where lots of regulations came from, and people then kind of thought we
Yeah.
need to put some, I guess, like structure behind all of this.
What
And that's
it
me
did-
using loose terms.
Yeah, look, for banks, it meant they have to hold more capital. So
Yeah.
banks more resilient. We're stopping a Bear Stearns or Lehman Brothers happening again. For companies, they're running lower gearing levels. So companies' balance sheets aren't geared as high. So
Okay.
they actually have a bit of spare change to get through these sort of times.
Yeah.
So we probably need to have translation during the podcast, right?
I'm going over there.
Because Brett says stuff. and I'm
anybody
like,
not Australian.
well, not even anyone not financial. I'm like, yeah, I didn't understand that.
Yeah. So virtually what it means is companies are running more conservative balance
Yeah.
sheets. They haven't
So
got
they're
as
not
much
giving
debt.
credit out as easily.
No, just in general company.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like a property company. That
Event
owns
agency.
Yeah.
You know, in the past, building up to the GFC, companies were running 50, 60, 70% debt on their balance sheet.
Yeah.
Now it's in the 30
Less.
to 40% pre-COVID.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Gotta
what
be
it's
a
meant
lot more
was that,
conservative.
well, it just means you've got more lead in your pencil, I guess you could say, when it
Yeah.
comes to dealing with this sort of scenarios, because I think the biggest thing we see out of going through a COVID is cash flow.
Yeah.
100%.
It's surviving it. Yeah.
It is. So,
Like that's basically with and you're the best person to talk about it. You're running your own agency and you've been lucky. Your cash flow's been there. It's made you go. But
when you say bin, I mean it is. We're running on fumes.
Still
going.
Like many
Yeah.
people. I think the biggest thing is like granted, like, you know, from my parents' side of things, like they always told me like to save and to, you know, be very
At least
conscious
3
about
months.
money and all the rest of it.
Yep.
And when I got into business, everyone said, you know, you need like at least like 3 months of capital
Yep.
to be able to get through a crisis. We're now like 6 months into this.
That's right.
So the reality is like whatever we planned for and whatever we put in place pre-COVID is kind of now redundant because this is such a different
It's even completely
experience.
different. Yeah,
So
but
we
the
just
fact
had to-
that you at least had that
Yeah.
has put you in a better place.
Yeah, and now it's all about survival, like you said,
Yeah.
and just trying to make sure that we have a business which is intact to be able to come out the other side of it.
But you know what it's going to do too, and to try and put a positive spin on COVID, it's going to bring good behaviours in business management going forward.
Yeah.
You know, if you talk to your parents and grandparents who went through the war, the Great Depression, those sort of things, their ability to manage money did not change, even in the good times. They still had it socked away.
They kept
Well,
the
that's
money under the
interesting.
mattress.
Exactly.
They
Honestly,
kept
like
the
my
money under the
gran,
mattress.
Yeah.
There was always like a thing like with my gran when
Oh, your gran would
Money
pull
under-
up
under
the mattress,
mattress,
under the
exactly.
mattress.
we always said she was tight. When
Yeah.
we were a
Right.
kid, like she never like really hand
Because it's
out.
fresh
But
in
they
the mind.
but they understood
and
it.
she
So-
always kept stuff back.
Yeah.
Well, you know, like for me and with our family, like
Yeah.
you know, I was born in Iran. I was born into a war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as our
Sanctions.
parents,
That's
you know,
all
had to
they know.
pack up
Yeah.
life, and we went to a country. I lived in Korea.
Yep.
Like who gets up from Iran and goes to Korea? We were the only ones.
It's different, yeah.
You know, very different. But it was my parents always had backup.
Yeah.
Because they're like, if anything, like my parents won't even fly together.
Yeah.
In case something happened to one of them. It sounds morbid,
Yeah.
but it's
No,
like
no,
one
it's
of the
smart.
sweetest things.
I know a couple of families that do that.
You know, so
Yeah.
so it makes sense what you're saying to
It
that
does.
financially. People that have been through it, they won't forget.
You'll carry this. And
Oh,
it's,
for sure.
It's amazing, even talking
vouch for that.
to younger expats who the GFC for them was something they read about. They
Yeah.
didn't really experience. And all their experience was from 2011 to now, prosperity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're trying to implore with them the importance of good fiscal management.
Yeah.
And they're going, yeah, we're fine. And now it's like, oh, now what you're talking about. I can see what you're saying.
Well, we had in Australia, what was it? The recession in Australia, what did we call that one?
The
you
recession we
pre-
had to have, Paul Keating.
Long to
91.
91.
Yeah.
Because you've not had a recession for 30 years in Australia.
No,
apparently.
we've been very fortunate.
Yeah, like this is the first time you guys go into recession.
No, we've had a recession. Australia did have a recession years ago. In
We had one.
19
We had interest rates on home loans were at 17%.
It was
Yeah.
hardcore.
Yeah.
I look at my parents and I'm like, I don't know how you've gotten us through all of this.
Yeah.
So this, you know, the recession in 2008.
It's still fresh in their mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, already been through it. Like there was the whole
Yeah.
pyramid scandal and all that stuff.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Australia's had their fair share.
Yeah.
But Australia's been a little bit luckier in the last crisis because we're commodity based,
Yes.
not credit based.
Yeah.
That made it a little bit better, or it was
Yeah.
a bit more delayed.
Look, I think it's sort of the averaging effect. On
Yeah.
average, we did well.
Yeah.
But if it's averages are dangerous.
Yeah.
If you put your head in the microwave and your feet in the oven, on average, your body's a good temperature. But I can guarantee it's not comfortable. So
a really good
on
way
one
of
side,
describing
you've
it.
got
True
the,
story, right?
on one
sure I've
side, you've got
tried
the
that after
mining
a Friday
sector.
night.
Yeah, the mining sector, which is killing it on this
Yeah,
side.
true story.
And their high numbers average out across everyone else.
Yeah.
But there are, you know, I mean, a good example is travel and tourism in September 11. It took
Yeah.
them 2 to 3 years
Yeah.
to get back on their feet.
Hit
Yeah.
bad.
So to get people back on planes and travelling
Yeah.
and moving.
Trust
I read
So-
something, I think Arabian Business the other day released that it'll take up until about 2024 for the tourism industry to get
Yeah.
anywhere near
Probably.
like
Yeah.
pre-COVID levels.
Yeah.
Well, on that topic, how is Dubai faring? How is the UAE faring in all of this?
Look, I think it's the UAE. I think we'll take a lot of lessons out of this, particularly Dubai. So I think you really have to cut it out, you know, down the centre with Abu Dhabi versus Dubai,
Yeah.
because completely different economies.
Yeah.
You know, the UAE has 9% of the world's oil supplies, of which Abu Dhabi has 98% of that.
Yeah.
So the Dubai, they talk about the oil economy. It's not really oil.
No,
It's-
they've always had to diversify.
and it's been travel and tourism
Yeah.
and property. And
Yeah.
the whole thing joins together, get people flying in, buying property here,
Yeah.
and, you know, that's virtually what built Dubai for the
True
last
story.
20 years. But now, and there's an area back on the Gold Coast called, back in Australia called the Gold Coast, which
Yeah.
is very similar.
Very small.
Okay.
So when travel and tourism and property do well, it flies.
Yeah.
But when you see those wheels starting to fall off, they're not as diversified sector-wise.
Okay.
So to me, at the moment, you've got travel and tourism, obviously, and events, and any
Yeah.
of those sort of inbound type
Gone.
of sectors, you know,
Gone.
decimated.
Yeah.
But then you've got other areas like finance,
Yeah.
which is doing okay.
Is it?
It is.
It is.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like Dubai, just before this all happened.
I was going to say, like, because I'm not really into financial matters,
Well, we
clearly,
will be
being
now,
an
right?
entertainer. But, you know, like, listening to some of the things, you know, now's a good time to invest or to look at, I guess, opportunities. There's lots of movement.
So there's a thousand
stuff
adages
there.
about, you know, what you buy when there's blood on the street and all those sort of things. You know, and it's true. But I'll put a caveat on that. Just don't buy anything.
True.
You know,
Yes.
sometimes there's a
Yeah.
reason why something's at zero.
Yeah.
Because it's not working.
Yeah.
So to me, it's always about when you're investing, if I can't explain to a client in 30 seconds what the company does and why it's a good story, we don't do it.
It's a good idea.
That has to be, and investing is simple. It's look out the window and see what's happening.
Yeah.
If you see a lot of trucks for a particular company moving around, you think, well, maybe they're doing well.
Yeah.
You know, you should invest in them.
Yeah.
And it really is just looking out the window and seeing what's working.
Just don't invest in the events industry
Yeah.
right now.
No.
Well, where
Soon.
Well, it could be. It could be.
Soon. It could be a good one soon.
Dan, you look out the window, you don't see it.
Yeah.
It will
You
come
gotta
back though, but it
see
will bounce
It will
back.
come. But I genuinely believe that the events industry is what will bring Dubai back.
Oh, for sure, because
It's gonna
like,
be
as you
It's
so
going to bring people
strong.
in.
Yeah.
And it all
Well,
dovetails in together.
Yeah.
So I don't
It's a
think
big part of it.
Yeah.
It's a huge part of it. Tourism is great,
It's
but a
linked.
big part of tourism
It's like Vegas.
is what you can
Look at Vegas.
offer.
Yeah.
Vegas
Exactly.
is the same. You know, the conventions
how much,
and all those sort of
yeah,
things.
how much can you do in a hotel?
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, but then you come and you stay in a hotel. You go to DSS, to the
That's right.
shopping
all the
festival. and
additional.
exactly.
I
It's
can't remember
bells
the
and
number
whistles.
on it, but there was something which was released kind of at the beginning of the lockdown that said, you know, just from the trade centre alone, there's like an extra 13 billion dirhams worth
Wow.
of kind of other GDP contributions
Yeah.
that happen for all of the different elements that contribute to what happens at the trade centre. So your transportation companies, you know, your taxis, your F&B, your
Oh, it's-
hotels,
it's-
like all of the
it's 6
printing.
degrees of separation.
Like, it's a massive ecosystem.
But that's the thing. You're working in the finance side. You get a feel for all the vibe. You
Yeah.
do talk to people. I know officially, unofficially. But what's going on? What are you hearing?
Look, I think travel and tourism, people are doing it tough. To their credit, they're not leaving.
Yeah.
They're doing what it takes to stay here. So for those who've been put off completely, they're now looking at getting a rack license and
Wow.
freelancing, being consultants. You know,
That's
rather than
interesting.
operating under someone else.
Yeah.
Then they can set their own payment terms and all those
Yeah.
sort of things. There's a lot of that going on, even
Yeah.
with people in the airline industry, and now pivoting from
Yeah.
airlines to
Loads.
to you know, because obviously Emirates let go.
I was going to say it's quite interesting. Actually, I've got
They're
a few
moving
friends
into
that
real estate.
I heard real estate is booming at the moment
yeah.
because
Yeah.
there's so much movement now within the within
it's
that
bargains.
market. Yeah, because
It's
people are
bargains.
finding cheaper places, so there's
Yeah.
just like a ton of stuff happening. But it's interesting you mentioned Emirates. I've got friends like cabin crew. Obviously, quite a large proportion of them have been let go. The amount which have actually stayed and are looking at opening businesses
Yeah.
or looking at, like I said,
It's
pivoting
home.
or moving,
Yeah.
it's really interesting because previously, I think my
just think
perception
everyone's
of
gone.
what happened in 2008 was,
Yeah.
you know, the
Mass
stories of the mass
exodus.
exodus.
Cars at the airport.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
Yep.
although there is an element, I guess, of that happening here, there must be.
Yeah.
I don't really see it on the scale to
same.
what it was before. Yeah,
But it's different too because
But
the hooks
where
are
are they
there
gonna
as well.
go?
And also, that's
Do you know what I
it's
mean?
where they're going to go.
You're going to go back to Australia. Well, Australia is going through exactly what we're going through.
if not worse in some
If
cases.
not worse.
But
Or-
the banks
or
are
it's
smarter
like-
this time too.
Yeah.
Where in the past, you could get on an airplane and they couldn't get your money back.
Exactly, but now they can.
they've got agreements with countries
Yeah.
where they can
Yeah,
chase
but
the
they can't
debts.
come into your country to get
Yes, they
you.
can.
Yeah,
They
but
can.
Apparently, they give the debt or the finance to a reciprocal,
Yeah, that's right.
bank within
Yeah.
the UK, for example,
There was
and
a
then
deal
that will
that-
chase you.
There was a deal that the UAE did, was it late last year, early this year with India.
Yeah.
Right.
Dubai court orders are enforceable in Indian courts.
Oh wow.
Are they
that reason.
enforceable in Australia?
What
are you thinking of running away?
I gotta ask it for all the Australians listening
I'm asking
in.
for a friend.
I'm asking for a friend.
But no, it's,
No, but it's a good thing for people to know because
Yeah.
I'm sure there are people that are in a tough place.
Yep.
And like it or not, some people, that's where they'll end up at, where they think that that's
Yeah.
all that they've got
Yeah.
left. And it's good for them to know that you're not going to get away.
Well, and I think also too, it's a different, almost like 2008 was a bit of a purge of the sort of the blow-ins.
Yeah.
So those who survived after are the stayers.
Yeah.
And take Emirates, for example, we're talking to a lot of aircrew.
Yeah.
They've been here for 15 years.
Yeah.
Their kids were born here. They
Yeah.
own property here. This is home.
Yeah. So they need to
The
stay.
kids don't want to leave.
No.
So they're doing what they can to try and buy time
Yeah.
until Emirates needs them, which could be 2022, 2020, 24.
Yeah.
They don't know when it's going to be.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of you can sort of get yourself twisted, or you can just go one foot and some of the next. Okay, what can we do? And then we've sort of been helping them, sort of just giving them a bit of a roadmap in terms of, okay, reach out to the schools, try and get your school fees reduced, talk to your landlord.
So you're real busy right now.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of hand-holding, a lot of counselling.
But it sounds like you're doing more than just giving financial advice. You're actually giving...
It's like lifestyle advice.
Advice as well.
Life is finance. People don't realise it. I mean, finance is boring. It's number 50 on the exciting list. Trust me, we get it. But
some people do like it.
I'm
a bit of a data nerd.
Listen, since and I've got to give this plug. I've always avoided finance. Like my parents always taught me, make sure you can save money. So I always save money.
Yeah.
But what to do with that money, I always go, what do we call it?
Analysis paralysis.
Analysis paralysis. Because like over the years, I've had so many, you know, the big loud ties from, I don't want to say places, different companies.
Suits. Yeah.
That 3-piece suits, guys half
the
my
cold
age.
calling.
Yes,
knocking on my door saying, give me your money, I'm going to invest it for you, I know what to do. And I'm like, how old are you? And then all of them give you the same sort of packaged script, and they come in with that booklet that says how much you make, and basically want to prove to me that if I don't make X amount of money by the time I'm 60, I'm going to be homeless. And I've always surprised them, because once they do the math and look at how much I pay, they go, oh, actually, you might be all right.
You're right.
I'm like, so that doesn't work.
Yeah.
But I never proceeded with them. It's something I've always wanted to get into investment, because you want to be able to retire. I don't want to work for the rest of my life.
You want to go to bed and your money's working.
Yeah, but until I met you, and I've got to say it, until I met you, I was not going near any of these financial guys or institutions, because I didn't feel, I'm like, you want to take my money, but all I'm hearing is sales.
But they're not really career advisors.
Well, I was gonna say, and that's the thing here
but that's
in
what
particular.
you had a lot of. And I've got a lot of friends that have proceeded with that, and I'm like, and they're like, oh, it's great, I get my portfolio, and I go, do you have any idea how much he's charged that you can't see?
4 to 6% per
annum. So I've learned a lot just sitting with Brett, which is why I really wanted him to come in. Yeah, no, I sound like I know
really
stuff,
intelligent.
But that's why actually one of the biggest things that we're about is raising financial literacy.
Yeah.
If
but
you
you
do that,
simplify it.
But you need to educate first.
But you simplify it. So and you also, you don't make the person listening feel any less for not understanding.
Well, you don't come out of the womb and know how to manage your
money.
Yeah,
I know, but you're
only exposed to...
A credit to you, I've sat across from a lot of them where they use big words, and I have no
He's not
problems.
trying to scam you, he's not trying to baffle you to sell something.
And the thing was, like, I've got, we know each other well enough that, like, if I don't get something, I'm like, don't get it. And then if they can't explain it, I'll keep saying, I go, still don't get it. Yeah. I go, I'm going to ask a stupid question. Layman's term. Keep simplifying. Nope. Financial brain is the little p. Keep working on it. And other ones just sort of look at you going, don't worry about it, I'll take care of it. I go, no, it's my money.
You'll never see them again.
Yeah.
We want to take
different.
clients from here at the low level to here. So when then we can have a really cool conversation with it's quite technical. Yeah. But you can't just go from being born to walking. You've got to crawl first. You got to build your way up, and the only way you do that is by learning in a way that is conducive with how your brain works. So I have a client, and she's a lawyer, and he's in creative marketing. I actually had separate meetings with them.
Yeah,
because two different people.
It is. We've got someone who's binary ones and zeros, and someone who's very creative.
Yeah.
So
all over the place.
Sort of like me, right?
I'm like all over
here. And what we'll do is, we're very lucky that we have a lot of people in a lot of different careers. Yeah. So I do learn about different sectors. So what I'll do is I'll draw upon their sector to provide an example. I'll explain something and you get blank eyes. Yeah. And say, okay, when you do this in your job, I go, it's like, that's what we're doing here.
Yeah. I get the light bulb moment.
So
when you're breathing fire, that's when you got to, connected. I'd like to see that.
We'll figure that one out.
Yeah, there's a good one there.
The role, I think, is to get you saying acronyms to your mum. That would be good.
I will do. You should
write a few down for me. Oh, well, that's the thing, though. Like, so a lot of our listeners out there are SMEs. They're freelancers. So they are people that probably are people that you're dealing with big time at the moment.
Yep.
Sort of, what advice would you have for them? Like we said, like jokes aside, Dan's like, good time to buy property. What sort of advice are you giving people when it comes to property, when it comes to investments, gold? I don't know, like that sort of stuff. What are people?
You can't plan unless you have a bit of certainty. Mm-hmm. So the first thing we're saying is build up cash reserves. Don't worry about buying shares. Don't worry about buying property. Buy nothing. Build up 3 to 6 preferably 9 months worth of cash.
Just choke them on
Yeah,
the
you
water.
like you want me to have how much? 3, 6, 9 months of capital?
I had to get in there in case people think it's COVID. I was like, let the water.
Yeah, exactly. I just put the mask on.
Yeah.
No,
Sorry.
it's something that, I think the most important thing is you build a nest egg, and you should be able to lose your job tomorrow and be able to survive for the next 3 to 6 to 9 months.
Yeah.
But once you've got to that point, then you've got a bit of buffer, then you can start to go out. But I think because COVID is, an unending piece of string, we don't know how long it's going to go for. You can't really, unless you're certain in your job, you're comfortable, your income's safe, to me, you can't really plan off uncertainty.
But at the same time, this is a time to...
Look, it is. And that's why I say, for those who are in a solid position, great. But if we're talking to, like I'm talking to my SME and freelance clients, I'm just hoarding cash because their cash flows are all over the place. They might get a great invoice in this month, but may not get in for the next 2. So what we're trying to do is build up their cash flows to get them riding through. And I always said, Mr. Murphy raises his head. When you have plenty of cash, invoices keep coming in. It's when you don't have any cash, invoices don't come in. And therefore, you got to really have that. And we always talk about mental psychology of managing money. It's almost impossible to manage money when you're stressed about money. You know, if you
100%.
If you and you cannot see the wood from the trees. You cannot make a straight decision when you can't afford rent.
Yeah.
You are just so panicked.
And I always feel you get into that kind of like vortex of negativity.
You do
it like a rabbit hole, and you're just like, and you never feel like you can get out.
It's the number one breakup of marriages, money.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's huge. I think it's like
thank God I'm single.
It might be 40 or 50%. It's massive. So, and that's I think the hardest thing is, if both of you are on the same page, a marriage or a partnership can get you through it together.
Yeah.
But if usually it's the guy trying to be the provider, not providing. A lot of problems happen, and sometimes we become marriage counselors.
It weighs up, but it weighs down on them.
Well, he might be too embarrassed to tell his wife, but they'll dump it on me, which I'm cool with. And that's the biggest thing I think getting through this right now is people just need to take stock of what they're doing. Don't try. I think people are always compelled, we call it FOMO, fear of missing out. When the markets fall, you've got to get back in, in. When you're getting stock tips from the taxi driver, the Uber driver, Deliveroo driver.
Well, I was there. I was like, Brett, money.
Yeah.
Invest. And he's like, oi, hold on a second.
Call your jets.
Call your jets.
Yeah.
Okay, let's put the money aside. I'm like, okay, now? And he's like, no, the market's in flux. We'll let you know when we're going to press go. Just wait.
Yeah.
I mean, we are going through the largest economic event since World War II, just to put it in perspective.
It's crazy.
Gold's going mad, though. I wish I got in on the gold.
Yeah, gold's a funny one so the problem we've got these days when managing money, and I know we are going off on a tangent, but I think this is important to say.
No, tangent away.
It is so easy to invest.
Yeah.
It is pick up your phone, download an app, and off you go. So, and quite often you will do what someone else is doing beside you because you'll hear their story. Oh, I made 10% today. And there's, was it Robinhood, which is a algorithm program, investing program in the US. You've virtually put in $10,000 and they'll just go and invest for you. Their client numbers are up 2,500% from March.
Wow.
So we've got a lot of mum and dads from Idaho putting in money.
Yeah.
But the big question is, what are the Warren Buffetts, the Carl Icahns of the world
doing?
George Soros's. And they're only moving slowly.
Yeah. Because
they know the gravity of what we're going through right now. You've got this tug of war happening between, on one side, you've got the central banks of the world, the Feds in the US, the RBA in Australia, HMRC in the UK, flooding the market with stimulus, with cash. But it's not flowing through. That's our concern right now.
Yeah.
It's not getting to the tills.
Yeah.
CNBC put out an article last month saying that US consumers are hoarding 33% of their disposable income.
Yeah. Something similar in the UK right now.
Yeah.
Because they're all on the furlough schemes and all these different, benefits or bounce back loans or whatever. And a lot of people are hoarding it.
But like we're saying before, they're trying to build up their cash reserves because they've been able to get through the good. Exactly. We are survivors by nature of human beings. So we know when there's a winter coming, you hoard your nuts.
Yeah.
Same sort of thing. We know there's a big thing happening right now. You just want to scale down on the cash.
It's interesting.
Well, it's because you don't know when it's going to end.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
But the problem
if you could see the end.
Well, the problem is when you wake up in the morning, you see S&P or the NASDAQ is a great example, record highs. People are going, what? We're going through this and that's going on. Even the S&P 500 is only down about 7% from the February highs before this all kicked off. But if you look at the numbers, and I'd love to show this on a chart.
We'll get you back. Don't you worry, we'll get you back.
If you strip out the top 5 from the S&P 500, I'm talking Apple, Amazon, Google, Facebook, and Alphabet.
So all the people which had to go to Congress the other day.
Exactly, that's right. Yeah, the crew. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. By remote, of course. Yeah,
of course. Zoom in.
If you take out the numbers, their numbers, the S&P 500 is up like about 10% for the last 5 years.
Why?
It's because what's the best way to describe it? When you're investing, there's themes and thematics that people go by. And it can be people going to buy SUVs instead of two-door cars, same sort of thing. People always gravitate towards what's the latest and the greatest.
Yeah.
Obviously, right now, everyone's using Microsoft Teams, everyone's using Zoom, so all the IT companies are doing very well. They haven't actually suffered at all through this. But then you look at McDonald's, when they released their results last week, down 30%.
Wow.
So less cheeseburgers. But, people will switch. And then it'll get to some point when McDonald's is so cheap, then they'll start to come back into that.
Yeah.
The problem is investing now is so easy. People are now almost gambling instead of investing.
Okay.
And
they're trying to make a quick buck, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, I mean, any time a US company went into Chapter 11, all these mum and dad investors were flooding it because they knew that as soon as a bit of stimulus was announced, that and they were making 500% returns in 2 weeks off Hertz or American Airlines, all these things. There's pictures on Instagram of guys buying Lamborghinis from these bets. They're making financial bets, but it's leverage bets.
Yeah.
Can we do some leverage bets for me?
Well, like
it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. Trust me.
Separate conversation.
But nice and quick. We'll take this offline. Nice and quick.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Look, it's one of those things where you don't know whether it's the right or wrong thing until after the fact.
Yeah.
So it's one thing to paper bet, but it's another thing to put real money in.
Yeah.
And when you put real money in, then because people tend to overanalyze and overwatch these things, they'll go through and go, oh, well, and psychology, they'll be, actually, was it ASIC, the Australian Securities Investment Commission, was so concerned by the number of retail mum and dad investors, they commissioned a report in May it was, and what they were talking about was that when you look at the numbers, they were concerned about the mum and dad investors actually had a very poor track record of being able to invest.
Oh, wow.
So sometimes emotion gets the better of you.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously that's why people use professionals.
Wants that Lamborghini.
Like especially right now.
Yeah. People use.
You're like, let me just roll the dice.
Yeah.
Let me just play roulette. Maybe I'll get the money to pay for the rent for the cover my mortgage for the next year. Happy days and not have to worry.
We call it racetrack money.
Yeah.
If you're doing that, do it no different to as if you're watching a horse race.
Yeah.
And just know that it's gone.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But you want to have a pretty good buffer before you went in that down the track anyway. So.
Yeah. It won't pay your mortgage. It's actually going to take your mortgage.
Exactly.
Wrong way.
Oh, it's very sobering sometimes.
Yeah.
Because you see it go the wrong way.
Yeah,
more often than not. You only hear about the good stories.
True story. Yeah.
That's true. But like that said, the financial landscape, do you think this is just going to go on for a little while more where people are going to sort of gamble and sort of use the COVID? Or how do you see the landscape over the coming months?
When you've got participants in the market. So you've got your big institutional investors, then you've got your more dynamic hedge fund, arbitrage type investors, then you've got your mum and dad investors, retail investors. At the moment, the bulk of the people who have been investing since the March drop has been retail investors and also to those investors who went short of stock.
Yeah.
So they sold it before they bought it. As the markets bounce back up, they want to close out their short, so they're buying back that position to close that out. So we're not really talking about good, solid, sticky money making long-term bets. We're talking very short-term money sloshing back and forth. I guarantee half of those mum and dad investors invested in March, April, if the wheels fell off tomorrow, they would be out.
Yeah.
Whereas you want to see institutional money coming in. Yeah. And at the moment, if you look at all the numbers, institutions are sitting on the side.
So right now there's a lot of horse betting going on.
It's tug of war.
Which isn't necessarily a bad thing because people are making money.
Yeah, look, if you look from May through to July, the market's actually gone sideways.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like that, but it's actually gone sideways. It's range bound like this.
Oh, wow.
And the longer we go through this, so the way the market works is it wants to price in the risk. It wants to price in an event. Now, if a company's earnings fall by 20%, therefore the stock should fall by 20%.
Yeah.
We're only just starting to get the economic data now of what's occurred March and April. So now we're going to start to see over the next 3 months a proper understanding of what has COVID cost the world when it comes to the financial ramifications.
Vast.
Yeah. So do you think that's gonna impact expat behaviour? Or have you seen expat behaviour being impacted? Well, obviously it's been impacted, but
Yeah. Look, I think people are wary, but by virtue of being an expat, you tend to have a higher risk tolerance.
Yeah.
So all our clients are expats. So
Still spending.
rather than, I'm sure if you're an 80-year-old, you'd be more concerned than, say, a 30 or 40-year-old with a job.
Well, that's the work.
So from that, our client base tends to be, I think our average client age is 46.5.
Yeah.
So they're more risk, their risk appetite is higher, they're not risk adverse. So they're saying, we want to do this, just tell us when.
Okay.
As opposed to the waters turn red and the 4 horsemen apocalypse come around the corner tomorrow. Well, I think we all know that going through this, we will come out of it.
Yeah.
We
have to.
This is like a book. Beginning, middle, and
end. Another chapter.
Yeah. And to me, the panacea for this whole thing is going to be a vaccine.
Yeah.
Because the vaccine will bring in finality. They'll know when we can draw this
and
to a
people
close.
can start planning again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the quicker that happens.
But there's been movement in that.
Oh,
who was it?
Yeah,
everyone.
In the last week.
Yeah,
massively.
I saw something. I can't.
University of Queensland. They're one of
Really?
they've just gone through second stage trials.
I think Russia has just announced that they're going to start actually administering their vaccine, which I'm not too sure about.
Yeah, but they might have rushed things a bit there.
How have we gotten to a point where within months of a pandemic we've got a potential vaccine? Like normally
because
they say it takes up to 2 years.
This would be the biggest deployment of biochemistry assets ever.
This is vast.
Yeah.
And also I guess like the financial returns
for whoever
those
gets there
companies
first.
which get there quickest.
You just think about just the kudos you get.
Of course.
They will be able to trumpet this for the next 20 years.
Should we be buying shares in Queensland?
Well, you can't buy University of Queensland, but the thing is, if it's a Pfizer, it's a Roche, whoever it is, they will be able to lord this over everyone for a long time. But that's why it's almost like an arms race.
It's an arms race. That's the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
Or the race to the moon or whatever, the space race.
Yeah. Look, I was talking to her the other day in Washington DC doing clinical trials, and she's working with 10 companies on just her.
Wow.
Trying to get something through. So it is. You almost have to bet on 100 to get one right.
Yeah.
And when that
one is going to be made for life.
Well, but then you need to make sure you make enough of a gain in that one to pay for the other 99 that
true.
fall over because all their eggs in one basket.
Yeah, you've got to cover your cost.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, but it could be, you could take a leaf out of, Levi Strauss. When the gold boom happened, everyone was picking up shovels. He thought, you know what, I'm going to make money. I'm going to make jeans for the gold miners.
Smart man.
He's going to have money. Not everyone strikes it rich. So if you look at the peripheral area,
I never knew that story.
We got to start planning.
No, we are, but pivot.
Yeah.
But you just got to look at the peripheral area. Like there's the flow-on effect, like you were saying before about the events industry and all the ancillary services that go with that.
Yeah.
It's the same thing in the health sector. So if you do have a vaccine, what's the deployment going to be like? So do you want to invest in medical centres?
Yeah.
Or do you want to invest in
a
syringes?
really cool event that you could get your vaccine at the event?
There you go.
Anyway,
I like that.
I'm just thinking, I'm like,
So when we have our next chat, we'll look at the portfolio.
We're looking at a lot of things.
Interesting.
Yeah, look, to me, it's how we're invested personally. We're in pathology because everyone's getting blood tests.
Yeah.
We're invested in another one's blood plasma.
Okay.
They're trying to make inroads into the vaccines as well too.
Yeah.
With CSL. So there's a lot of different ways you can play it. You don't have to play it straight on.
Yeah.
You can actually play around the fringes.
Wow.
But then you can also look at things like consumer staples.
Yeah.
Groceries. How many?
Yeah.
True.
Toilet paper.
If anything, and that was
Cans.
my older brother runs his own law firm, and he just laughs. He goes, "Right, never did." He goes, "I run a law firm. I'm looking at the dole queue while my mate, who's a plumber, is killing it."
Yep.
It's like my dad always said.
But he'll be hurting now because now the trade with Victoria going to stage 4.
True.
Now, but
no one can get out.
The one who is almost a recession-proof job. is a shelf stacker at a
Groceries.
supermarket.
So it's interesting actually, because when I was a
What do you
kid,
mean?
I always remember
The
my
shelf
mum
stacking.
said, she was like, you know, you don't want to end up stacking shelves in Tesco.
You're like, are you
That's
sure, Mum?
probably the only job right now
Well, it
which
was
has
one
got
of the
like
best paying
opportunity for
jobs in
growth.
Oz when I was at uni.
Yeah, it
like
was.
if you did night shift, you got paid.
I applied for it, but I got told I was too ambitious, and they thought I wouldn't stick around. So, like, okay, that's probably
They-
true.
they
But
did
yeah,
not
that's
hold
right.
it
They
back
did.
now.
They saw through me. But you know, it's amazing when you talk to people who are stacking shelves right now. We do know a number of clients who
Yeah.
do it, not because they need the money, but because they need to apply themselves to do something, and there was
Yeah.
jobs there. And in one group, there was a dentist, a lawyer. It sounds like a bar joke, doesn't it?
Wow.
A dentist, a lawyer. A radiologist and someone else in this
Wow.
this group of 4 who were in their team.
Wow.
Who would have thought any of them would be out of a job? You know,
Yeah.
we've got a client
And
who's an
stacking shelves.
anesthesiologist. His income's down 90% because
Yeah.
there's no elective surgeries.
Yeah, because you can't. Yeah.
So
That's crazy.
it is, to me, the COVID pandemic has come in sideways
Yeah.
in a way that no one could imagine. And there's those who have the good fortune of being in an industry that happen to either
Boom.
benefit or didn't really change
Yeah.
anything. And then there's those who've just been absolutely,
Sideswiped.
yeah,
Sideswiped,
Yeah.
blindsided, screwed.
yeah.
But, it
Yeah.
will get,
But as you said, we're kind of,
but it will get better.
but it will get. But
the
as you
good thing-
said, we will come back from
The
this.
good thing about events is that whole thing's not going to go away.
No.
But there are going to be sectors and jobs and careers
Yeah.
that may have gone forever because
Yeah,
of
this is true.
So, and I think those people in those jobs probably realise that now and are looking at,
Yeah.
you know, doing other things. And I think what you're going to see is an uptick in people going back to university
Mm.
or doing all these sort of different things where, you know, they can make
Diversify.
Apply themselves again.
or retrain. You
Or,
know.
or transferring
change.
skills. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look at how many SMEs have a bricks and mortar business.
Yeah.
If they didn't pivot to delivery and online,
Yeah.
that would have been gone.
True story.
So
yeah.
it's sort of, everyone's talked about, yeah, it'd be great to be online and it'd be great to do this and that. But this has almost brought that forward at a rate.
100%.
Yeah.
A lot of businesses that were
Yeah.
thinking about getting an online aspect
Yeah.
to their business
Yep.
have had to like just bite the bullet and invest in that now.
Exactly.
And I bet a lot of them would be sitting there going, "God, I wish I did it sooner."
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
You know.
But here they are now. So there
Yeah.
are positives you can take away from COVID. You know, good spending habits, improved business practices, and also sometimes trimming the fat.
Yeah.
You know,
True.
businesses grow organically, and sometimes you don't know why people
Yeah.
are doing what. You
Well,
just,
especially here, because I always feel it's like the land of opportunity. You know, you're always thinking like, oh, we're going to get bigger and there's more opportunity and we need more
Yeah.
people. And then, you know, sometimes you just have to reevaluate and look
Yep.
to like trim the fat, become
Yeah.
a bit more financially conscious.
But at the same time, and one of it's been really interesting with us with the podcast and the people we brought in. There has been a lot of collective work happening. Where are you talking about how, you know, new systems, new sort of processes, you know, like you got the creative collective, the
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
coming out of this that are positive. You know, we've got you know, the industry ILEA is now
Yeah.
stepping up,
The
coming out
business
there, and
associations all
business
working together.
associations all working together. It's really changed it, and people going, we need to have better systems, we need to have better means.
but you know, the systems are so cheap now too.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know, and I think what people are seeing is mentally they were ring fencing their market, geographically speaking.
Yeah.
But now there's no reason why a freelancer or a creative in Dubai can't be selling their services online to someone in Brazil
Somewhere else.
or the
Yeah.
United States. You just got to think of that in scope.
It's just actually, there's a couple of DJs, a couple of performers in Dubai that then started selling PPE.
Yep.
And they were selling it like to different countries. I was like, what?
You just got to do what you
Yeah.
Well, they're
can, right?
hustling,
You've got to
like,
do what you
yeah.
can.
It was
And
interesting.
I think some people take umbrage from that, other people take a
Yeah.
joke from that. But
Yeah.
I think it's the human nature is pretty tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get
Survival.
through this. Yeah.
But I'm guessing for Atlas, you won't be starting to sell PPE. You guys are doing quite well, and it's
No, for us, it's
booming.
been a bit of a perfect storm. We've
Yeah.
had massive tax regulation change in Australia, end of financial year. And one thing, and once again, another positive to come out from COVID, is for once in some people's careers, they've actually had time to sit down and work on their
Yeah.
finances.
100%.
They've actually sat down and gone, I'm going to open my bank statement. Oh my God, look at the fees and charges. Like, they're actually
Yeah.
doing this. And stuff that we've been preaching for the last 10 years.
Well, we've done that as a business. We've gone literally through every single line item
Yeah.
and gone
Exactly,
like, do we
yeah.
actually need to spend this?
Bingo.
Yeah.
And I think that's important
taking
because
stock.
coming out of here, people and businesses will be leaner and meaner.
Yeah.
But also too, they're finally giving their finances the you know, because managing your finances is not hard. It's just like sort of cleaning the backyard first.
Yeah.
You know,
It's the
once you
last
mow
thing
it,
anyone wants to
it's
do.
boring. As I said, it's priority number 50 on
I
everything.
don't know that it's boring as much as it's a little bit like the ostrich. You put your head in because it's
Yeah.
a pretty big
Well,
topic, because like if you haven't done your finances well, you have to deal with the fact that you might be, oh God, how am I going to retire, or I'm going to be working till I'm 100.
For me, I just don't find it creative. When I look at an Excel,
no, it's really creative.
But you can make it creative though.
Yeah. So my finance team, literally, whenever they present anything to me,
they're so excited.
Colourful graphs.
Exactly, that's right. Yeah.
Keep your attention.
Yeah, of course.
Look at the pretty colours, Dan. Look at the pretty colours.
This is the important bit.
When we do an advice document, it's 70 pages.
Yeah.
But there's an executive summary that goes for 2.
Yeah.
And that's what people read. They don't read the 68 other pages.
Yeah.
And to me, it's little things done often and well give you the best results.
Yeah.
Our wealthiest clients aren't our highest earning clients. I've got clients who need $500,000 a year, and that's just because that's their expenses. They don't need it, but they need it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Where I've got other clients who have more money, because they're on probably half the amount the other people are on, but they're not spending as much. And it's not because, and the best thing I can liken it to is when I got my first mortgage. You see that statement and you think, how the hell am I going to afford that?
Oh, I died.
Yeah. But guess what?
You do.
You do. And then your lifestyle doesn't change. Nothing changes.
Yeah, but next thing you know, it's a noose around your neck. I just want to get rid of it.
It is. It is a noose around your neck, but I think also too, we're indoctrinated to pay down debt. That's another issue.
Yeah.
But to me, it's, you don't realise how much money you are, part of the French, pissing up against the wall until you actually go through. Most people would rather talk about brunches on Friday than go through and talk about saving money. But it's the little things where the bucket theory is the best one. Set up 4 bank accounts. One bank account is your expenses. One bank account is a bit of play money for you. Another bank account is savings. Another bank account is travel.
That's a good point.
Don't do anything for 12 months. Just a cup of concrete, suck it up, princess. But what's going to happen at the end of that 12 months is you'll actually have cash there to book a holiday. You'll actually have savings there to invest. You'll actually have money there. You will never have to worry about paying a bill because it's already provisioned. And it's the same thing when running a business. Businesses very rarely will have fluctuations in their expenses. Most SMEs, their biggest cost is probably
staffing,
overhead.
But so you can map out for the next 3 months what your employment costs will be. You know what your rent's going to be. All those sort of things. All you need to do is then break that down into a monthly figure and make sure you got that money put aside. So if you do get a good contract comes through today and they're paid quickly, just go, okay, great, I'm going to amortize that over 3 months. I'm surviving for 3 months, and then I will go out and get more business, and that's got to put food in my belly. But at least the business is going as well. So whether it's an SME, whether it's freelance, whether it's a salaried employee, it's the same thing. It's just
there,
provisioning.
There.
It's just buckets.
And that's I think where we're at right now.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I think we're once people listen to this podcast, we're going to have so many people asking how to get in touch because they might need a bit of hand holding. So how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, look, I mean, we, as you said, we sort of specialise in Australian expats, but we do have a network of people who do look after a lot of other nationalities, and like a lot of careers, you tend to hang with the good people. So we don't talk to the people you're talking before about the
thank God,
the bad ones.
The sales people.
Yeah, exactly.
The loud ties.
And
cold calling.
I think if people go to our website, atlaswealth.com, we do a plethora of articles on there. Yes, they're all Australian expat reference, but the principles with most of them you can apply to most.
Transferable.
Yeah, that's right.
Nice.
It's just the little things. I mean, finance should not be smoke and mirrors. It should be demystified and something simple. Make it simple. People understand it, and then they want to get into it. Whereas people don't want to feel like they're doing the wrong thing. And that's where people are so embarrassed about talking about their finances.
It's also scary. It's scary.
It is.
Money, having or not having money is a scary feeling for a lot of people.
But it's not only not having or having money. It's scary having the reality pointed out to you. When people say, I'm going to have this at this age, and unfortunately go, not even close.
Not even close.
I definitely don't have that now at 39.
But it's little things done now. The earlier start, I mean, in a practical world, you start at 20. Like everyone's having, in their 20s, people are having too much fun. But if you start in 30s, even 40s, it's the ones that worry us when you're a 55-year-old guy who has nothing to your life, to your name, who approach us and say, I want to retire in 10 years.
And you're like,
and you tell them you have to save 25,000 Australian dollars a month.
That's why I'm kind of like a little bit scared right now because I was quite sensible. I was always told to start saving.
You've always,
I was saving from like the early 20s, maybe like 22, 23. And unfortunately, we got to a position now with COVID where it's like I've had to really dip into that just to survive and just keep my business alive.
But thank God you did it.
Well, yeah, because otherwise I'd been like screwed. Right.
I think
now.
the rule book's
but
thrown
also
out.
remember
thrown out.
though, what you've also done something great. Not only have you been smart enough to have some sort of savings and do that since you were 20, but you also stepped up and started your own business, which takes guts, especially in a country that's not even your home. Yeah,
it is the 1% of the world.
Yeah, and
business owners. I mean,
yeah.
I'm there. I know. You drive into work and you have a whole range of thoughts that employees never have.
Yeah.
How am I going to pay the bills?
True story, especially last few months.
Yeah, exactly.
We've been chatting about it.
Hang your head up high.
Yeah.
People will wear COVID pandemic with stripes, like, wear with pride.
Yeah.
Because
I think they will eventually.
I think if you can get through this, and I think most people can. There's some exceptions where it's been obliterated, but I think people, if they really sit back and think hard, they can find.
We'll navigate. We'll get there eventually. Yeah. And I think, it's like I keep looking at it and thinking, oh, well, I've lost everything, kind of. Yeah. But the reality is actually we haven't, because at some point things will come back.
It's
paused. And the savings or whatever, the pain we've gone through for the last few months, eventually sometime it will take a while, but that will come back.
But I also feel, and, again, I have to commend you because your team stood by you. You stood by them. So I don't think you, not only it pause, it's not just pause for you. I actually think you've gone to another level with your team.
You sound like you got out in front of it, though, which is the most important thing.
He did.
Oh, yeah.
And
you didn't do the ostrich jump.
So much respect for that.
Yeah.
Because, kept his team for as long as he could. And
we still
then
kept
when
everybody.
Kept everyone, everyone's on, sent them back home.
Yep.
And every single one of them kept working with them.
But the interesting thing is, people don't blame you for the pandemic.
But
and
that's because
the
of the
that's
way
been
he
the
handled
real
it.
interesting point of
But
it.
that's because of the way you handled it.
Exactly. Whereas if you just blame the pandemic and treated them like crap, guess what? They'll blame you.
Oh, of course.
Whereas if you say, look, guys, I'm trying my best, I'm going to try, they know that there's a bigger thing than what's happening with you.
I think that's been the real interesting point. Like previously, with financial, situations, or, you sometimes have like periods of the year where you don't actually have much business on. You start thinking, cash flow's a bit tight. Yeah. And you feel genuinely bad. But I can honestly say in this situation, there's nothing more you can do. No. The only thing you can do is, be empathetic. You can try your best.
That's right.
You can get up every single day and just keep on moving.
And as the owner,
100%.
hustle your brains out. Instead of going to a brunch, Friday.
You're looking at Dan Hustle Bolton.
Hustle is strong.
The hustle is real strong.
Yeah, there's a stone there, turn it. And I think that's people have got out of their comfort zone now, which is good. They've realised that business was a bit easy pre-COVID.
Oh, some of us were coasting.
Yeah.
It was like, even personally, we were just like, going through
you
the
wake
motions.
up, business comes to you.
Yeah. And now it's like, actually.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Thank you so much.
On that note, thank you so
guys.
much for coming in, Brett.
That was a great chat.
But we're going to get
we're
going to get you in again.
Yeah, I was happy to chat.
We'll sit down and do what other topics we need to learn about and bring Brett in.
You could go in 1,000 different directions. I mean, it's. I think the biggest thing is the sooner you take action, the sooner you own up to what's going on, the sooner you manage it.
Yeah.
It's amazing that mental stress that just suddenly drops off your shoulders.
Oh, for sure.
And then you can focus on everything else.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, people just push this and push it down, suppress it.
You can't
and if you do
this.
it, you're just kicking the can down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, well, I guess I'll be speaking to you tomorrow about what my next step is then.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks so much for coming in,
Thank you so
Brett.
much. It was amazing.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.